Hey everybody, welcome to Car Convos, episode number 4. Today I've got my buddy Josh here to talk about his 2015 Lexus IS 350 F Sport. Next up on Car Convos. Hey Josh, welcome to Car Convos. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Scott? Happy to be on here.
Excellent, man. Can't complain. Can't complain. So, tell us a little bit about your Lexus IS 350. What did you have before it? Why did you particularly buy that one? And then we'll kind of go into a little bit more.
All right. So previously, I had a 2000. I want to say it was a 2011 or 12 Volkswagen CC, and I had a ton of issues with it, from the transmission to speed sensors, to some interior issues. Yeah. So that's it. To the right was my previous vehicle. I loved how it drove. It had the transmission in there was really nice, and I love the interior. You know how German cars drive, but I had a ton of issues. It left me stranded on the side of the road for like 3 to 4 times, middle of the night. And I've always had bad luck with vehicles, cars, boats, anything mechanical. It'll break down on me. So I wanted to get something, that was a little bit more reliable. And so I started looking at Japanese, and I was looking at 2 brands. I was looking at Lexus and Infiniti. I was actually looking at your car, the Q50. Loved it. I wasn't a huge fan of the interior.
I've got 2 screens, man.
It does have 2 screens. I'll give you that. Correct. Because I wanted something more reliable. I've cars, trucks, boats, anything mechanical I have the worst luck with any of that stuff. So the Volkswagen broke down a ton of times. I had to replace the transmission on it. Flywheel went bad. I had speed sensors go bad on there. I had to change something out with a headlight ballast, center screen. A bunch of stuff went wrong with it. I loved how it drove, though. I love the how German cars drive.
Sure.
Interior was really nice for what it was. So then I started looking Japanese.
How
I was
many
looking at 2
miles?
different.
How many miles were on the Volkswagen?
The Volkswagen, when I got rid of it, I think it was just a click over 100,000. It was like
Okay, so you
103,000
used
miles
it.
on it.
I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah. I bought it with 25,000,
Okay.
and then I put 80,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And then that's when the warranty. It was a certified pre-owned, and I'm like, once that warranty runs out, it's going to break down on me, and it's going to be out of pocket.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I need something reliable, because at the time I was driving a lot, from the east to west coast of Florida, and I was like, I want something Japanese. So I started looking, at the Toyotas, the Hondas, and stuff like that, and I wanted something a little bit nicer.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at Lexus, and I was looking at your car, the Infiniti Q50. Love both of them. Was just not a huge fan of the interior in the Q50. Lexus used, like they call it, the seats are called New Lux material. Yeah, it's like a New Lux material. And I have this weird thing where all cars that have leather, most of the cars that have leather, they get really shiny on the steering wheel, and the seats, they kind of crack. And but Lexus, you look at this generation, from the day they were brand new to 5 years from now, the seats and interior look the same as long as you take care of it. So that was one of it, the items. But the warranty for this, so that's Lexus, I bought certified pre-owned. The warranty on there, the extended warranty was actually unlimited miles. So I could have driven 100,000 miles, and it would still have that factory warranty. So that was
Nice.
a big deal to it. And the last thing was, there's nothing on the road that looks like that 3rd generation IS. It's pretty timeless, in my opinion. They just came out with the 2021 Lexus IS, and this still kind of looks, it still has that new kind of look to it versus, other car brands.
Yeah, man. I mean, certainly the IS is definitely something that I was looking into. When I did purchase my Q50, I was looking at I was looking at the GS too. I was looking at the GS because it's a little bit bigger. But you got the 350. I was actually looking at the 250 because I think that was more comparable. I think the 350 was a little out of my price range, and then you got the F Sport. So Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's definitely pretty sweet. I mean, did you look at the 250 as well, or did you just look at the 300?
So I didn't look at the 250 just because the fuel economy was only slightly better, and
Yeah,
it's an outdated motor, the 2.5 liter. So
yeah,
then they had that IS, I think they call it now the 300, which is 4-liter turbo. I
yeah.
was really looking at that, but when I test drove it, there was like a bunch of turbo lag on there, and I really like. So this car, I won't jump ahead. The 350 sounds fast, but it's not. But it has this. I love the sound of it,
Yeah.
and it rev matches when you downshift. It has a paddles, and I was like, you know what? Before I get too old and have kids, I still want to have that fun car before I
Oh
have to
yeah.
get
Yep.
the dad wagon or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
this car isn't fast. It's got 307 horsepower, but it sounds fast. So I
Yep.
mean, it's halfway there. Um, but yeah, I wanted to go with the F Sport package because I love the grill on there. And then I'm not a person of aftermarket wheels on cars. I
Yep.
I haven't found a wheel set that looks nice. I really like factory wheels, and
Yep.
I think the wheels on the F Sport are like one of the best looking um, factory wheels you can get in its class, in my opinion.
They definitely look sharp. I mean,
Mhm.
I love the look of it too. You're absolutely
Mhm.
right. One of the things that I really love about it was, and I'm sure, and I know you have that on your car, is the gauge cluster.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about the
Yep.
gauge cluster.
Yes. So I gotta look up on the spot here.
It's probably called something specific, right?
What is that? The LFA, that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the gauge cluster was based off of the Lexus. It was a 2000. I think it came out in the 2013. Was the LFA, which was Lexus's kind of
Hypercar.
premier
Yeah.
hypercar.
Yep.
They released, and then they would build the hyper on that car, and then pull parts of that, and then lead it into their lower models. And what they did with the IS was they put that same, not the same gauge cluster, but this gauge cluster is inspired by the LFA. So it's all digital. There's no the tachometer and all that stuff is not mechanical, and it has this little ring around it. It's kind of gimmicky, and I can't imagine what it's going to cost to replace it. But you'll hit a button, and it'll slide. It'll slide to the right, and then when you get out of the car, turn it off. It'll slide back center.
Yeah.
But it's inspired by that. So that actually was a key selling point because it was kind of
See, there
for
you
that price
go.
range, it was kind of futuristic. And now you see all the newer cars; they're all completely digital displays. But it was a digital display, but there's a mechanical ring that actually moves. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
So that's a regular driving mode, and then you'll hit a button and it'll slide over, and you can pull up your music and everything like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, I thought it was so cool personally. Yeah,
yeah, but I thought it was cool, but then I was like, I can't imagine what it's going to cost when that motor goes out. How much it's going to cost to replace that.
I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure.
yeah.
It's one of those things, right? The things that we really like about cars are also the
Hmm.
things that are probably going to give us the most issues.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know. Go ahead.
So I remember. So my dad has a 1950 Chevy Deluxe that I helped him fully restore when I was younger.
Wow.
And any little thing you could do yourself on there. You don't need to hook it up to a diagnostic machine to let you know what's wrong with it. You don't need to take off 50 different covers to change the oil and all this stuff. So you're 100%. The more creature comforts or you know parts that it has to it, it's going to be. You just got to think how much harder it is going to be to replace that.
Sure, sure. And I mean,
Yeah.
as we know, a Lexus is basically a fancy Toyota, right? So that 3.5
Correct.
liter, it's a Toyota engine, right? I mean,
Hmm.
so like you said, it's not going to be the fastest thing, but it's going to be reliable. I mean, Lexus is,
Yeah, it's it that I mean that motor's been around forever. They're
yeah.
using it in the forerun. It's been in the forerunners. It's been in the previous IS. Um, no complaints. I now that I'm getting older and I don't floor it at green lights.
Oh,
I'm
yes, you
more
do. Get out of
towards
here. I know
I'm
you
more
do.
towards the reliability. Weighs a little bit more in my preferences now versus going fast. And like I said, it sounds fast, so that's
Now,
all I
you
need.
say reliability is paramount, but I know something
hmm
that you want that, I mean, that's
hmm
questionable. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
You haven't really done anything. You haven't touched it, right? Pretty much no
No,
mods.
the only yeah, I've stopped modding cars since, high school days, just because, I don't really get the money back out from it, and I just rather have it look nice and cool and have the cool wheels from the factory.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so the only thing I've done was put tint on the front windows.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's and
Mhm.
I really wouldn't expect you to do much to it. I mean, the thing looks amazing as it is. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
it serves its intended purpose.
Correct.
Absolutely. And what type of gas mileage are you getting with it?
So right now, I think it's rated. I want to say it's rated for. Uh, don't quote me on this. I think it was rated 18 city, 27 highway, or 28 highway. Or I think it's 19 city, 28, 29 highway. Right now, I'm probably getting a mixture of combined, probably around 23, 24.
Yep. Sounds
On the
about right.
highway, and this is actually, manually calculating the MPGs, I'm getting right around that 28, 29 mark,
That's
around
great.
20 cruise speed. I think it's like 2,700 RPMs. So it's not bad on there. For being, it's for a V6, it's 3.5
Yeah.
liters
That's
isn't
good.
small. It's a
I
pretty
mean,
big,
it's
yeah,
300 horsepower, almost 30 miles a
yeah,
gallon. I mean,
hmm
that's pretty good. I mean, the
yeah,
Q50 gets it's right at averages 22, something like that.
hmm
And
I think you have more horsepower than me.
yeah, 330. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it. I've thought about putting an exhaust system on it many
hmm
times, but I know
Yeah. Those cars with exhaust sound very good for a
370Z.
V6.
I mean,
Yep,
it's a
yep,
370Z motor. So yeah, I mean, I know they
yep.
sound great, but I know this is going to be my wife's car.
Mhm,
Yeah, so she doesn't want an obnoxious exhaust on it. So unfortunately,
mhm.
uh, but anyway, coming soon, there'll be something that is loud. Anyway,
Yes.
moving on. So what about the reliability?
So as far as mechanically, knock on wood, it's been 100% great. So I've had it now. I bought it in 2017. Yeah, 2017 or 18. No, 2017. I bought it 2 years old with 12,000 miles on it. It just clocked over 62,000. And knock on wood, mechanically it's been perfect, no issues at all. There was an issue with the center screen where it was starting to delaminate, and it's a known issue with Lexus, so I just brought it in. They changed it out for me, under the warrant. It wasn't even under warranty. It was a bulletin that they
Oh
had to
yeah, technical
replace.
sort of TSB.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Other than that, no other issues. Oh no, actually, so the AC blend door went out on it, but that was covered under warranty. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was stuck on the current setting that I use, the cold setting. Um, so other than that, it's been perfect. And yeah,
As you would expect. As you'd expect from
yes,
a Lexus.
yeah,
It's they purposefully don't do they're never the first to do anything, Lexus.
exactly.
They're never
hmm
the first thing, they're never the first one to do anything. Anytime they redesign something, it takes them, 10 years to redesign anything. So I understand. I mean, the AC blender though, I've heard of that. I mean, that's just across the board with anything
Yep.
with dual climate control makes it so
hmm
much more complicated because there's only one AC compressor in a car, and yet if
hmm
someone's got hot heat and someone's got AC, there's bunch of little plastic doors and actuators back there. It's just like it's complicated. So
Yeah,
uh,
so I've had the same issue on my first car that I had. The AC blend door went out, but that was something I could change by myself. It was super simple. It was behind the glove compartment, and it
that was the
took like
Ranger.
10 minutes. Yeah, yeah, that was the Ford Ranger. I was able to
Okay.
change it out myself. But this one is a little bit more complex because it's past the fill. It's like I got to reach my hand in there and do all that. But I was like, I bought a certified pre-owned for this reason, that I don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so that was like
Totally makes sense.
it was super easy fix for them.
Nice. Totally makes sense. And then so you're just standard maintenance stuff. I mean, oil changes and
Yeah, so the cool thing, so the Lexus's program is called the L certified program. So you get the 2 years on top of the regular, I think it's 4-year, 50,000 bumper to bumper, and then it's 2-year unlimited miles on top of that. So within getting this L certified, I think it's your first 4 maintenances are included with it.
That's cool.
So I actually made a relationship at the service department, and I only wanted them to do the service whenever they change the oil, because all the other services, it's like they inspect the wiper blades or they do their to make sure the tire you can't rotate the tires on these because it's you can, but it's not a traditional rotation because the wheels are staggered, so the front wheels are smaller than the rear wheels. So they
Really?
just do, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'll
Hmm.
get into that in a second because it's causing me an issue right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, all the other like the maintenance intervals every other 10,000 miles, it's just something that you can do yourself, like check your brakes and all that stuff. So I told them I only want to do it, when I have to change the oil, so you get your money's worth out of it. And usually when you do the oil, that service interval, you'll have to change out the cabin and the other engine filter, intake filter.
Sure.
So the issue, not an issue, but another maintenance thing. So for some reason, when Lexus made this car, when they were looking for a tire vendor, they found they come with the Bridgestone Potenzas, and I like the tires because there's like no sidewall. I really like that skinny tire look.
It looks, yeah.
And this, yeah, and this specific tire, on the sidewall, there's like a lip to it, so it kind of protects the wheel from curb rash. And the
Hmm.
way it looks, it's like the tire is sunken, or sorry, the wheel is sunken into the tire, and this sounds weird, but it's like a cool look. I don't know. I kind of like it versus having the thicker sidewalls and
Yeah,
something you'll see on like a SUV or a
sure.
Camry or Corolla. But the issue is on this tire, the tread wear rating is very low.
Ah,
So
yeah.
I bought the car with 14,000 miles, and then literally, and the tread wear, I think on the inspection report, I can't remember how much left, but it was a lot left. And then literally 10,000 miles later, like at 24,000 miles, I had to buy new tires, and I wanted these specific
Wow.
tires because I love the look. Because I have a friend that has the same car, and he went with a cheaper tire,
Hmm.
but it just throws the whole look out of proportion with the tires, the wheels, and then the
Sure.
fender gap. So I went with these tires, and it says, comes with a 50,000 mile warranty,
Hmm.
but
Okay.
I didn't know that if the tires, this is at Costco, and I don't know, I'm assuming it was the same policy everywhere, but Costco, when I went to go, get new tires and balance, or sorry, went to go balance these tires, I was asking, hey, this warranty, can you take a look at it? He's like, oh, if the wheels are staggered, it cuts the warranty in half. So instead of having 50,000 miles, it's 25,000 miles.
Ah,
And I've had these tires for just over 25,000 miles, and I'm going to need new tires again. So now I got to contemplate if I want that same look and get that same tire, or get something with a better tread wear rating.
right.
But other than that, it's just regular maintenance.
So that's more of an annoyance. That's more of an
Yeah,
annoyance. It's not
yeah,
really a complaint
yeah.
about the car. That's more, I mean, any
No,
car that
yeah,
has staggered wheels is gonna be
exactly.
that way. So,
Hmm.
um, okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But they don't. So, is it the diameter? Is like the fronts are 19s and the backs are 20s, or is the width?
No, no, yeah. So the some cars, the stagger can be, you'll have smaller wheels on the front and then larger in the rear. But these, they're both, I believe they're 19s.
Yeah, they look
But
like
the the
19s.
the rear the rear tire, I don't know the exact dimension of it, but it's much wider.
It's wider. Yeah,
Um,
which makes sense. It's a
yes, than the
rear-wheel
front.
drive car,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that makes
Hmm.
sense. Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. So really, overall reliability is excellent. I mean, no particular
Hmm.
complaints in terms of that stuff. So
Hmm.
what would you say like your kind of favorite part about the car?
So me drive used to drive a lot, not anymore now. But I used to be inside of a car, a majority of my day. So the interior was like very, very important to me. So when I wanted this car, it had to have push to start. I know, silly. Had to have had to
Yeah,
have ventilated seats. And in this price range, it's kind of hard to find, back in the day, because those were newer technologies, but Lexus had that. But what I really like about the interior is when you sit in it, the center stack is like elevated, and the way it flows, if you feel like you're in a cockpit.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're in like a Honda Civic, it's like very open. This is like very tight and conforming, which doesn't sound like it should be what you should look for in a car, but I kind of like that tight kind of
Yeah.
feel. Like you're I so it's I don't know if this analogy makes sense, but when you're sitting on the seat, it's like you're sitting in the seat
Yeah.
versus like if you're sitting in a SUV, you're sitting on top of the
On
seat.
top
I
of
don't know
it.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
this, it's like you become, like melt into the seat. I don't know. That sounds
Yeah.
ridiculous.
No,
But I
it,
love the interior of this car.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
no, it totally makes sense. I mean, it's like, driving in an Indy car. You're
Hmm.
inside. You feel like when
Hmm.
you're turning with the car. If you're in a truck, you get body roll and you're like on top of it when you're cornering. But
Yeah.
just even like another car that's very similar to that is the
Hmm.
Camaro. You're very
Yes.
you're
Hmm.
down far into it. I mean, it's kind of got, they call it a pillbox.
Hmm.
It's a very narrow windshield, very narrow back end. Some people love it, some
Hmm.
people hate it. I like that too. The kind of, you feel like you're being hugged by the seats too, like a good
Exactly.
bolstering.
Hmm.
It's a good, it's a kind of like a secure feeling for sure.
Yeah. So when I leave for work and I have a rental car, like if I'm, going, to wherever, and I'll have that rental car for a week, and like I drive it, and it just feel any car like that, even if it's like whatever, I have a Chrysler 300 or a Camry Corolla or whatever, all feel like trucks. And then when I come home to my car, it's like I sit in it for the first time, come back from the airport, and it's like I plunge down. It's just such a weird
Yeah,
feeling.
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the interior was a big thing. The exterior, I love the lines of it. Nothing looks like it. It handles, I mean, it's not. It's so the F Sport package all it is really just cosmetics. There's
It's
no
looks.
performance
Yeah,
upgrades. Yeah, it's not even really a performance. The only performance thing that it has is you can. There's a Sport Plus mode which kind of dampens the shocks a little bit harder, more firm actually. But other than that, it's not. I know they kind of advertise it as a sports car, but it's really just a more refined sedan, is how I would explain it. It's not that fast, like I said, but it's like you said, it's super reliable. It'll get you from point A to point B, and I just love the whole styling aspect of it, and it being Japanese, and there was a video that I watched when they made it, and I forgot the name of the lead designer of the car. On the side, on the sills, there's this weird angle in the doors, and I think he said it took him like some crazy amount of months to figure out how to make a machine to kind of uh, uh,
get that line
make
right.
that
Yeah,
yeah get make that bend in the metal, because there was nothing on the market that could make that kind of line. And if you look at this car from the side, any view, the lines on it look crazy. It's
yeah,
it's a it's a very subjective hit or miss. Some people think it looks ridiculous, and some people love it. When it first came out, because I used to be a huge fan of the previous IS, and then when this came out, I'm like, oh, the headlights, because it had the daytime running
yeah.
lights, and the headlights are separated, and it was
Hmm.
like one of the first cars to do that. But then like it really grew on me, the look of this car, because it's very hard to imitate.
Yeah, I mean, it really does look so sharp. I mean, every line on
Hmm.
it. I love the headlights too.
Hmm.
The grill. I think the grill is the most controversial piece. It's just so
Yep.
huge. Same
Yeah.
with the new BMWs. They're just the
Yep.
kidney. It's just getting bigger and bigger
Kidney
and bigger.
grill. Yep.
It's just,
But same thing with Audi. Audi, they all kind of follow suit to
yeah,
whatever's trending. So
right, yeah. So what don't you like about it? I mean, it sounds like you definitely love the car, but there's got to be something you don't like.
yeah. So I mean, the tire thing but that's something I can fix. That's something that I'm making my own bed and doing that to the tires. But other than that, I can't really think. I know.
You said
I'm
dated
trying to think.
technology.
Oh yeah, so that kind of touches base on what you were saying. Lexus, they won't be the first to market with a new technology.
Right.
They'll sit back and they'll beta test everything. So that's kind of the thing. So this car, it doesn't have the pre-collision, that a lot of the cars in that kind of category had in that year. It doesn't have that. Doesn't have Apple CarPlay when all the, even the Civics were having Apple CarPlay in that
Yeah,
year
the
range.
Hyundais,
Um,
yeah.
yep, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's something you got to live with, but if you want something that's reliable, something can't just be made reliable. It's got to be tested, refined, tuned, and then rebuilt to, the standards of being reliable. So it's just something that it's like a pitfall of having that kind. Even the new 2021 when they came out with the new Lexus IS, everyone was waiting for like a huge refresh, and the interior is literally all they changed were the AC grill vents were
Yeah.
circular and the touchscreen was slightly larger. Um, but that's the price you got to pay if you want something that's reliable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
D- Totally make it. I totally get that, and that's that's
Mhm.
Lexus and Toyota. But I mean, I will say
Mhm.
all the new ones. They all look awesome. I mean, even the ES, even though the ES is more
Yep.
like a I'll just say middle-aged person's car. I mean, it
Yeah.
looks sharp. I mean, they're beautiful. As
Oh yeah. The yeah. So when I brought it in like at 5 o'clock to do like an oil change and stuff, and they gave me a loaner car because they said they couldn't finish it in time. And they asked me, the dealership that I go to, I love them. It's like whole experience there is really nice. And they let me pick, and I picked the ES. And I had to go to work, and a buddy used to have an old Lexus, and he didn't know what kind of car I had. And he asked me, he's like, and I told him before I had the IS. He's like, oh, I used to have the previous gen, the convertible version of that. He said, I love that car. I wish they would make the new generation as a convertible.
oh yeah,
Um, so I got the ES, and we went to a company event, and he saw me pull up in it, but he didn't see the back where it said courtesy loaner. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had an ES. That's like an old person car." I was like, "No, it's a loaner." Um, but no, the ES is definitely nice. I miss the GS. I'd love to have a GSF. That's like
oh
I
my
love
god,
4-door sedans that still have V8s in them,
five
and
liter
that's
man. Yeah,
yep, yep, and it sounds nice. Interior's beautiful.
the quad
The whole
stacked exhaust
yep,
pipes. Yeah.
yep, yep, yep. That car was like when that came out, and well, when the ISF first came out, that when I was in high school, that was like every kid's dream car,
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
they got rid of that, then they came out with the RCF,
Hmm.
kind of competes with the Mustang, but I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the looks of the front of the RC. I don't know, it kind of looks funny, but it still hasn't naturally aspirated. And then they have the LC 500 and all that stuff, but yeah, the ES is definitely nice, but driving it feels very sedated. So it's like
Oh, it's a Camry.
it's not. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
a fancy
exactly.
Camry.
Yeah,
Literally, that's
yeah.
what it is.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
totally understand that. So what's your plans with it? I mean, to wrap up, what are your plans with the car? What's your next car? What are you looking at? What you're dreaming about?
Yeah. Yeah, so when I bought this car, everyone says I'm gonna buy this car. I'm gonna have it for 10 years. That rarely happens.
I know,
Um,
I know.
yeah, I said that with this car. I'm more than halfway through with the payments on it. I was gonna hold on to it, but as I bought a house, and where I live, it's on a lake, and every day I drive to work, I see the boat ramp. And I used to be huge, outdoorsman, love being on the water, bass fishing, inshore fishing, and I'm getting the bug to buy a boat.
It's itching.
Yeah, exactly,
It's itching.
exactly,
Just
exactly. But to have a boat, you need something to, and then you keep in the water, you need something to tow with it.
yeah,
So I don't know. Financially, my I put a lot of money down on it to bring my payments down and build equity. I have a ton of equity in the car right now, um, and I don't know if you follow Dave Ramsey, but I'm a huge Dave Ramsey fan.
absolutely.
And if I were to call in and tell him, what I wanted to do, he would just hang up on
He
me.
would,
And
he would
he
hang up.
says,
Yeah,
yeah. So financially, it doesn't make sense, but I would. But I will say the warranty is going to be up at the end of next year, so that's kind of pushing me. And then I don't want to spill the beans on what's happening on your end, but the rates are really good right now, and I'm saying all this stuff just to talk me into it, but I would, I want to get a truck, something that can tow, so I can get a bass boat in the future, hopefully 2021 or 2022. So I'm looking, ideally, I would love to get the new Gen Raptor, but the price of those is just so, it's, it would be a stretch to fit it, to make Dave Ramsey proud. It would be a stretch to fit that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but other than that, I was looking at the GMC Sierra. They came out with the AT4, which is supposed to compete with the Raptor. I love that. But I think I might have to keep it, Japanese and stick with either a Tundra or Tacoma. But that's all hearsay. I don't know yet. I just bought the place that I'm in right now, and 2021 is supposed to be my rebuild year, but I'm already on Auto Trader every other day looking at what pops up. So
Every other day, that's not bad.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not every day, it's
Mhm.
but yeah, man, I totally understand. And
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
weird cycle because sorry to cut you off. It's a weird
no, go
cycle
ahead.
because I used to have a truck that I was like I hated how it drove and the fuel economy and then now it's like now I want to go back to that and I'll have that truck, for X amount of years and then it'll be outdated and then, you'll want to go back to a car. It's such a weird cycle. I find it hard for those people that stick with it that, they all they know is a truck. They'll never own a car because, it's not, part of their lifestyle kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards in the future.
I am not in that camp where I
Mhm.
am just a car person and I'm just a truck
Mhm.
person. I absolutely love cars. I absolutely love
Mhm.
fast cars. I mean, I would love nothing more than to get, a used 5.0 Mustang, and put a
Mhm.
supercharger on it next year. That to me, cars are more fun than trucks, but the trucks
Mhm.
pull the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need the
Exactly.
truck in order to pull the fun stuff. So again, it's one of those
Exactly.
things. And I do subscribe to the Dave Ramsey on YouTube,
Mhm.
and I know exactly what you're like. You know,
Yeah.
buying a truck, buying a boat, all this other fun stuff. But again, it's like, do you live a little bit, or do you just save all your pennies? You could retire earlier.
Mhm. Yes.
But I know you got some side hustles, and I know so all that stuff helps toward
Mhm.
pay for all the fun stuff, right?
Yeah. 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 It's no, you're 100% true. It's what side of the coin do you want to be on,
It's a balance.
Exactly.
It's all a balance.
Exactly.
You can't just save all your money. You got to have fun with it at some point. But
Mhm.
Josh, it has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you being on the show, and we'll definitely have to follow up next year when you we'll see. Oh, we'll see what happens. I mean, technically
Mhm.
speaking, the warranty on your car has nothing to do with it, because that car will
Mhm.
last 200,000 miles with
That
absolutely no issues. That's an excuse, but
Mhm.
that's okay. I totally get it.
Yeah. No, you're being the good friend right now, talking some sense into me.
Uh,
Um, you know.
yeah, no, I get
But
it. I
no, I
get it.
agree. I agree. That was the whole reason why I went with it. Like
Yeah.
this episode, I feel like this episode was really short because I had nothing really to talk about because I've never really had any issues with the car. So, but
Yeah.
that's a testament to the reason why I bought it. So,
Yep. Absolutely, man.
hmm
Well,
hmm
sounds good. Really appreciate your time. We'll talk soon.
all right. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir. Take it easy.